I had a conversation with my friend the other day about the John Wick movies. These are, in my opinion, the greatest action movies ever made. It doesn't really get any better than these. I'd say the second best action movie series has to be The Matrix, but the thing is that Keanu Reeves plays the main character in both of these movies. It seems like every single movie this dude is in is just a masterpiece. And a lot of people go to see movies just because Keanu is in them. But I was like, this can't be true. This dude can't have a completely perfect run. There has to be some bad movies that this guy was in. And dude, I've definitely found one. Today we're going to be talking about Replicas, the worst science fiction movie I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Just watch at least a quarter of the video. Just give me a chance to explain. One thing that I'm super aware of is people defend Keanu in the movies he's in like they're samurai trying to protect their family's honor or something. Like, people take this stuff seriously. When I was learning more about these movies to make this video, I came across the ruins of many battlefields where wars were waged over people swearing that Keanu Reeves is the greatest actor to ever touch the earth. I know this because I was one of those people. I'm not proud of it, and it's a past that I try to forget. But back in the day, I was like some type of Keanu Reeves vigilante. I was like Batman. Whenever one of my friends said anything remotely negative about any piece of media that Keanu made an appearance in for at least 3 seconds, I would just swoop in and start breaking skulls and snapping necks. I was like the Punisher, dude. But that's not me anymore. I've matured, I've grown, and I've realized that Keanu Reeves isn't really the best actor.
Death? You're gonna kill me. You're gonna fucking kill me! Why?
This movie came out back in 2018, and I remember seeing it and thinking that the poster looked stupid, and because of that, I just never watched it. I had no idea until just now that this movie has an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's lower than Morbius. I think that's the lowest I've ever seen in my entire life. In this movie, Keanu plays as a neuroscientist named William Foster, and the idea is that he's studying how to take the consciousness out of people and put them into robots, so they can basically become immortal. That's why the movie is called Replicas. Just from hearing that little summary, you already know what this movie is going to be about. Somebody in his life is going to die, and then he's going to try to make a replica of them, and then it's just going to go terribly wrong. Like, you already know what's going to happen in this movie. And I think that's why nobody went to see it, and it only made $9.3 million at the box office. Did they put this in like one movie theater? How did it make $9 million? Did Keanu like stream it in a Discord call? I just can't even imagine how it's possible that this little people saw this movie. The movie opens in a tropical forest in Puerto Rico, where Keanu has set up a lab to work on his experiments. And everybody is running around this lab as fast as humanly possible, like they're trying to break the world record speed run on doing a science experiment. And they're all getting ready to transfer the mind of this dead guy into this robot.
We are going to take his biological brain, imprint it into that synthetic brain, replicate.
One minor nitpick that I already have with this movie is its use of exposition. Keanu asked another one of the scientists how long since this guy died from cardiac death. Any normal person would just say, how long was this guy dead? But he has to specifically say that it's cardiac death so that the audience understands how he died. After that, Keanu puts this little headset on him and then uses this hologram Iron Man computer to, I guess, make sure that his mind is ready to be transferred.
New Theta Connectome Protocol 245. Theta 1, two-phase operation.
After the robot is ready to receive this guy's consciousness, Keanu uses another machine to plunge a needle through this guy's eye to just suck out his brain, I guess? I don't know. I don't know how this neuroscience stuff works. The procedure works though, and the robot comes to life with the consciousness of the dead guy. But as expected, he just immediately freaks out and starts questioning who he is and why he's a robot, while looking like he's literally out of a cutscene from a Wii game. Usually when I make fun of the CGI in movies, I'll compare it to a PlayStation 2 game, but no, this is below that. This is like GameCube, dude. Like, what is this? Did they like pay somebody on Fiverr to do the CGI for this movie? It'll cut to shots where you can see through the robot's perspective, and it looks even worse. They just took the movie and put a blue filter on it, and then they're like, yeah, this is the robot's perspective. He just sees in blue for some reason. So this dude starts freaking out because last he remembers, he passed out and then he just woke up as a fucking robot. And Keanu is trying to calm him down and saying things like, just relax, it's okay. And just keeps saying Sergeant over and over, as if him hearing Sergeant will just cause him to just stop freaking out that he's inside of a robot's body.
Sergeant Kelly! Sergeant Kelly! Turn it off. The imprint failed.
So Keanu turns his back to the robot while it starts hitting people and launching them across the room. So everyone frantically runs around trying to turn this thing off before it starts World War III. And then Keanu walks behind the chair and just unplugs it. That's all you needed to do to turn it off. Why wasn't that the first thing that they did? Dude, is this real? Is this a real movie? After the experiment is over, Keanu goes to his boss to explain to him what happened, and tells him that the machine talked and that the other machines before him never could. But his boss doesn't really seem too impressed at the fact that he took the consciousness from a dead person and put it into a robot, and the robot came to life, and tells him that he doesn't care about progress, he cares about results, and that he's considering putting the brakes on his entire operation if he doesn't get something to work soon. But Keanu insists that he's extremely close to figuring something out, and gives some more exposition to the audience by telling this dude that he's moved his entire family to Puerto Rico and sacrificed his entire life for this project. But his boss doesn't really want to hear it and walks through these glass doors into a green wall. Dude, you do realize that Keanu just made one of the most important advancements in humanity. Anyone that he has the dead body of, he can put their consciousness into a robot, and the robot retains their memories and can speak and interact with things. This is up there with the discovery of fire. What do you mean you're gonna put the brakes on his operation because it's not giving results? He can literally make you immortal. The only reason it didn't work on that one guy was because he wasn't informed that he was going to be put into a robot after he died. He just passed out and woke up as a robot and panicked. Imagine if he told that dude before he died that when he does, he's gonna put his consciousness into a robot. He probably would have reacted a lot better. Also, if this isn't the scientist's first time trying to do this, why did Keanu have to explain to the entire team what they were doing? Like, you've done this multiple times. You don't have to explain that you're gonna take his brain and put it into the robot. I guess it's just more exposition for the audience. After Keanu's literally smooth-brained boss leaves, Keanu drives home to see his family. And all of us know exactly what's gonna happen to his family because it was spoiled in the literal summary for the movie. So let's just skip to the part where they all die. We have no reason to be invested in any of these characters. What happens is Keanu is driving down the road in heavy rain with his family, and it's raining so hard that it's kind of difficult to see through the windshield. And right after his wife suggests that he should pull over and wait for the rain to lighten up, turns out that they were driving in the wrong lane the whole time, or maybe the truck that almost hit them was. So Keanu swerves out of the way of the truck just in time. But unfortunately, he swerves into a tree, and a branch from the tree just impales his wife. So he panics and then swerves the car even more and drives off the side of the road into a lake, where once he crashes into the water, he passes out for a bit. And when he wakes up, his kids have drowned in the water, and his wife is dead because she was impaled by this tree branch. So he crawls out of the car and somehow gets all of their bodies out of the car. I honestly have no clue how he got his wife out of that car though. I guess he pulled out the branch that was impaling her through the front of the car underwater and then swam her up to the shore or something. I have no idea. He lays all of his family members on the shore of this lake like Tetris blocks or something. Then it cuts to this overhead shot that's so bad that I expected Keanu to just get on his knees and look up into the air and scream, "No!" Also, if you look really closely, you might notice that his wife is squinting her eyes because there's water getting in them. The first thing he does is take out his phone and call his friend Ed to come and help him with this. And I'm not gonna lie, this dude is taking his entire family dying right in front of him pretty well. Maybe a little too well. He's acting like he just spilled a cup of coffee, not that his entire family just died. He's just acting so chill and nonchalant about this. He's like, oh well, shit, my family just died. Let me call up my friend. Maybe he has an idea. Keanu seemed more sad in John Wick 1 when his dog died than he does here, where his wife got impaled and his kids drowned in front of his face. And it begs the question that if Keanu can act like he's sad in John Wick 1, then why isn't he here? John Wick 3 was about to come out that year. Why was he even in this movie? Was it somebody's birthday wish for Keanu Reeves to be in their movie or something? Like, why is he wasting his time here? So Ed shows up and Keanu basically tells him, hey, you're gonna help me clone my family. And Ed is like, okay. So they go to the laboratory where they both work at to steal some of the equipment and bring it to Keanu's house. And they somehow sneak 4 corpses into this laboratory, and after they do, Keanu tells him, hey, you're not going to tell anybody about this. And then Ed is like, okay. Ed explains to him that he can make clones of his family members and age them to the age that they were when they die, but he can't age their minds and give them new memories, meaning that they're just going to have the brains of a toddler. How convenient, since Keanu was just working on how to transfer the mind of a dead person into a robot. So the plan is that Ed is going to clone Keanu's family, and it's going to take 17 days for them to age inside of these special cloning pods. And in that 17 days, Keanu is going to try to figure out how to get their minds transferred from their dead bodies into their new clone selves. A little while later, Ed comes back to Keanu's house with some more stolen equipment, including the cloning pods, but he was only able to get 3 of them. So he freaks out and decides what he's going to do is write each of their names on little pieces of paper and randomly draw them out of a bowl, and the name that he draws from the bowl is going to have to wait for the first batch of clones to finish to use one of the empty cloning pods. Is what I would say if this movie made any sense. The name that he draws doesn't get cloned and just stays dead. Why can't he just wait for the first 3 clones to finish and then sedate them and then reuse one of the pods pods for the missing person. It's not like the pods can't be reused. These are the same ones he got from the lab that were being used earlier. He just drained the water out and brought it to you. This doesn't make any sense. So for some reason, Keanu tries to get Ed to take a piece of paper out of the bowl and kill one of his family members, and Ed is like, no, I'm good.
Pick a name.
No way, man. You pick it.
Please, goddammit. Please, pick a name.
No.
So he has to pick the name himself, and the name he picks is Zoe, his 3-year-old daughter. So she's not going to get cloned. So the next morning, he runs into another problem where he realizes that he's not going to have the heart to tell his new cloned family that they're actually clones and died before, and that he wasn't able to clone Zoe because he didn't know that he could reuse one of the pods. So what he decides to do is download their memories from their dead corpses, and then sift through all of their memories and erase all of the ones that have Zoe in them so that they don't remember Zoe at all. So let's get this straight, right? Zoe is 3 years old. She's pretty much a toddler, which means that she's going to need parental supervision at all times, which means that she's going to have to be around the rest of her family at all times, meaning that majority of your family's memories are going to include Zoe in them. So you're going to have to remove majority of your family's memories from the last 3 years. You're going to have to just gut them completely. You're not going to be able to just go in and edit their memories. Like, let's say they're looking across the room and you just take out the part where they see Zoe, then they're just going to wonder why they have a bunch of gaps in their memory and eventually put everything together and figure it out. So you just have to gut the memory completely. But then the family isn't going to remember the last 3 years of their life. They're not going to know any of their friends. They're not going to know what job they have. They're not going to know where they live. They're not going to know anything. And you might be like, okay, this is another dilemma for Keanu to face, but the movie never really addresses this. And it also doesn't address the fact that this seems like a way more complicated procedure than taking the consciousness from a dead person and putting it into a robot or clone. It seems maybe 10 times as complicated as that. Removing and editing specific memories from a human brain spanning across years. How can you do all of this, but you can't just move the memories around? Also, if you're wondering where these memories are even being stored, it's in these giant microchips, or I guess more like macro chips. Remember how in the beginning of the movie they stabbed a needle through the guy's eye to, I guess, extract memories and consciousness from him? Well, it goes into these giant hard drives. I don't know how it works. The movie never explains it. So Ed tells Keanu that he's going to need a more sustainable power source to power these pods than his house's electricity. So Keanu is like, I have an idea, and he leaves the house and comes back with like 20 car batteries. So he went around his entire neighborhood and stole the car batteries out of all of his neighbors' cars without any of them noticing. So then later the cops come to his house and they're like, hey, so everybody in like a 5-mile radius has no batteries in their cars and they can't drive the cars. Has this happened to you? And he's like, oh no, I still have the battery in my car. And they're like, oh, well, I guess you're the lucky one then. And he's like, yeah. So they're like, okay, have a nice day. And they don't even suspect him at all. The one guy in the entire town who has car batteries in his car, they don't think he could have anything to do with this. Also, it's raining outside, but these cops are completely dry, even though they have no umbrellas or anything. So another day passes and Ed shows up to his house again with a bunch of newspapers that he got from the front of his house and tells Keanu that he's not really doing a good job keeping up his family's appearances. And then he realizes, oh shit, my family has been missing from the earth for like 5 days, and that they all have friends and social circles and jobs and people who could realize that they're gone. So what he does is he goes and gets all of their electronics and uses his super Iron Man cerebro computer to get the passwords. I guess I have no idea how he got the passwords to this shit. Then goes in their text messages and pretends to be them and gives a whole bunch of excuses for why his family has been gone. And some of the excuses he gives are so stupid. His daughter's boyfriend says that he's home alone and asks if she can come over, and he's like, no, I'm grounded. So he's like, for how long? And then she's like, until I'm 18. Like, that sounds so suspicious. Why not just say you're done and break up with him or something, or anything except I'm grounded until I'm 18. He even opens the video games that his son plays on and goes into the chat in the games to give excuses for why he can't play. Like, why does it matter if he goes missing to people he plays video games with that he's never met in real life? So 17 days pass and the clones are done being created and aging to the age they were when they died. Keanu hasn't figured out how to move their minds from their dead bodies into their new bodies yet. So he's like, all right, I'll just leave them in the tanks while I'm done. And then he's like, no, you can't do that because they'll just keep aging, and they're aging rapidly. Like, they've aged back to the age they were when they died in like 17 days. You can't leave them in there or they'll just keep aging even more. So he's like, okay, I'll just take them out and sedate them and put them in a coma while I figure this shit out. And he's like, all right. And it begs the question of why Ed is even helping him with this, and like how Ed is spending all of his free time at Keanu's house. Like, doesn't he have a family of his own and like his own life? It's not like he's getting anything in return for helping Keanu with his family. It's not like he owes Keanu anything. These two guys' history is never explained. It would make a lot more sense if Ed was maybe in debt to Keanu or something, or felt like he owed him something, but he doesn't at all. He's just helping him because Keanu just needs a supporting character to give him exposition and do things he doesn't know how to do. After he puts his entire family into a coma, he has a little bit of a breakthrough and figures out why moving people's memories and brains around wasn't working before. The reason why it didn't work when he tried to take the dead guy's consciousness and put it into the robot at the beginning of the movie is because that guy's brain is looking for his organs like his lungs and heart and other involuntary functions. And since a robot doesn't have any of those things, the brain thinks it's dying and then like panics, and that's what caused the guy to flip out. Meaning that you can't take somebody's brain and put it into a robot. You have to put it into another body, which, like, dude, I could have told you that. It took you that long to figure that out, that you can't put a human brain into a robot. You have to put it into another person because that brain is specifically tailored to suit a human body. It's like trying to take a dolphin's brain and put it into a monkey. Like, it just wouldn't work. So he puts their minds from their old body into their new bodies and they come back to life, but they're acting pretty strange. And reality is also acting pretty strange because his son pours a bunch of maple syrup on his pancakes, and then in the next shot, the maple syrup is gone. Did he just like dry off the pancakes with a paper towel? Like, where did it go? So Ed tells Keanu that he has to go back to work and do another experiment where he tries to take the guy's mind and put it into a robot. And if it fails, then he's going to get fired and they're going to cut off funding for his project. So he's like, oh shit, okay. So he goes to work and remembers that it's not going to work because it has to be into another body. So he's like, okay, well, so I don't lose funding, I'll just use my own mind. So he goes into one of the bathroom stalls and sets up all of his equipment and puts the headset and everything on, and he's about to imprint his own brain into the robot when his boss comes in and starts trying to talk to him. And he's like, hey, you in there? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this project. This is going to be really cool. And it's just super awkward because the boss doesn't know what's going on. He just thinks he's taking a shit. Like, why are you talking to this guy? Leave him alone. Imagine if you're just in the bathroom doing your business and somebody recognizes your shoes. And they're like, oh, hey, Zero, what's up, man? You're just like, dude, like, don't talk to me. So his boss comes right up in front of the stall and explains that he had a really hard time getting that donor and that if he messes this up, he won't be getting a next one. And his face is right in front of the stall door. Like, bro, just let this guy use the bathroom in peace. You can't just wait 30 seconds to say this to him when he leaves. At night when Keanu gets back home, his daughter has a nightmare of the car crash and of Zoe dying. So he goes into their memories again and then erases even more memories. So he goes back into their memories again and erases the memory of the car crash, which I don't know why he didn't just do that before, but I guess he makes too much noise because his wife comes down the stairs and she's like, what are you doing? So instead of making up some lie like, oh, she just saw some really disturbing video on the internet, she wanted me to just erase it from her brain, or she had a breakup and she just wanted me to erase her memory of the relationship or something. He just literally tells her everything that happened and she just believes it without even questioning it at all. I think if somebody came up to me and they said, oh, you died in a car crash, but I erased all of your memories of it and you're a clone, I think I would think they were insane before I believe them. She just immediately is like, oh, for real? On God? Okay. Man, that sucks. And then walks upstairs. So then his boss shows up to his house and then just basically just tells him that he knows what happened and knows that he's been stealing shit from the lab. Just let it all play out because he knew he was onto something, and that he's proud of him for finally figuring out how to move the consciousness from a dead person into a living person. But says that his family members are dead and that these clones are the property of his company, so he's gonna have to take them. And that what he's doing is super illegal and his family is dead and he needs to just accept it. You gotta accept that your family died, but we're gonna let you have one final night with your family, you know, go eat dinner with them and spend some time with them, and in the morning we're gonna come by and confiscate them. Which, I mean, he's not really wrong, but Keanu was like, no, please let me keep them, you know, I can make more for you. And he's like, dude, your family is dead. These are clones. Like, what are you doing? So he's like, at least just bring me the code and the algorithm you use to make these things, and then we'll come by in the morning and confiscate your family. So he goes into his house to get the giant macro chip thing that the code is on and brings it outside, but then decides he doesn't want to give it to him and starts beating the shit out of him with it. So then he runs back into his house and tells his family that they gotta go now because there's like these crazy 007 agents that are chasing after them that his boss came to his house with in case he didn't comply. So they get into their house and run away, and they have this like super boring chase through like these suburban streets. It's just kind of boring. It's just like a normal car drive. It turns out that the reason these secret agents are able to keep following Keanu and his family is because all of his family are clones, and because they're clones, they have trackers in them that the Bio9 company can just look at on this Kindle Fire from like 2009 and figure out where they are. So what they do is go into this hospital. I guess they just let random people just run into hospitals and go into one of the operating rooms. But they go in there and then use a defibrillator, I guess, to shock themselves, and the electricity destroys the tracker. I don't know how they thought of this, or how they even know that it works, or how any of his family members are even going along with any of this. So they somehow know that this destroyed the trackers. They know it works. I guess they could just feel it in their gut or something. And they get back into the car and drive over to this dock where Keanu just plans on stealing Ed's yacht. So he climbs over this fence and gets on a boat while his family waits in the car for some reason, and he looks for the keys, and then he turns around and it turns out that even though the trackers were destroyed, they still were able to follow them to the dock, and they kidnap his family, run away. So Keanu goes back to his job and he's like, hey, you took my family. Can you give them back, please? And they're like, no. And then he kills Ed. And the reason they give is because he wants to send a message to Keanu. I don't know why not just kill one of the clones instead of killing an actual human being, but I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. So they're about to kill Keanu next, and he's like, wait, you can't kill me because I'm the only person who knows the code and how to transfer the consciousness from the people to the robots. And if you kill me, then you'll never figure out how to do it because you just killed Ed because you're a fucking idiot. So they're like, okay, well, just take your memory of you knowing how to do it and put it onto another macro chip. So he's like, okay. So remember earlier in the movie, Keanu put, I guess, a part of his consciousness into the robot, but not all of it. So now what he does is he just puts the rest of it into the robot, and then the robot comes to life and like breaks out of its restraints and starts like wreaking havoc, and then it immediately knows where they are, and it runs through the labs to get to where they are, and it's like, give me back my family, in Keanu's voice somehow. I guess when he transferred his consciousness, he like transferred his voice to
Jones, I'm here for my family.
So the secret agents just start shooting at the robot, but the robot is bulletproof, so it just starts running through the room and just beating everybody up. And my question is, why did they make the robots this powerful? Like, were they creating these things to fight Superman? Like, why make them bulletproof and why make the robots this strong? These are like test runs. Like, these are test runs. We're testing taking a human brain and putting it into a robot. Like, it doesn't have to be Ultron. Just put them into just a normal a normal strength human body. And we get some more Sega Dreamcast level CGI here. The robot walks into the room holding a body, and then he throws it, and it just looks like something out of Gmod. It's just so bad. It's so bad, dude. So the Keanu robot just one-shots Keanu's boss, and the boss is like, hey, you know, I'm gonna die, and then another boss is just gonna replace me, and then they're gonna kill you. So you're fucked. So then Keanu was like, okay, then let's make a deal. I'm gonna put the headset on you, and it's gonna like poke your eyeball and make your brain go into a robot, and then you can live forever if you let me and my clone family go. So he's like, okay, deal. And then the movie cuts to Keanu and his clone family hanging out at a beach, and it turns out that he cloned Zoe now, which I guess he realized that he could just reuse the same pods. So he went ahead and did that, and they're all just one happy family until the rest of his family ages prematurely and dies in like 5 years because they're clones and age way faster than normal people. Also, Keanu's boss comes back to life because he put him in another clone that is identical to himself, and the Keanu robot now works for his boss, which I'm sure he's really happy about that. He has all of the memories and desires and emotions of the normal Keanu, but yet he's trapped in a robot's body and never gets to see his family and works 24/7 for a boss that he hates. He can't eat, sleep, or do anything remotely fun ever again, and his entire existence is meaningless because he's just an exact copy of another person who already exists and doesn't even have his own identity. And he can't even die because he's a robot, and anytime something goes wrong on him that could cause him to perish, it'll just be repaired, so he lives forever. A human mind trapped in a robot's body for the rest of the foreseeable future in existential dread and depression. So I'm sure he's having a lot of fun. And that's it. That's the movie. That's Replicas. Oh my god. I think that's the worst science fiction movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It's crazy, like, you know a movie is bad, but you really can't appreciate just how bad the movie is until you just go through the entire movie and just really look at it under a microscope. Like, dude, this movie is so bad that it's actually just kind of disrespectful. Like, think about it. There are people who woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning went to work at 9. Worked for 8 hours straight and came home at like 5 o'clock. Did that for 5 days straight, got paid on Friday, and used a fraction of that money, even if it was just a $12 ticket, to go to the movie theaters and sit down on a seat for 2 hours and watch this movie. But where does it go on the bad movie tier list? So far we have Morbius and the Suicide Squad on here, but after thinking about it for a little bit, I think that this is the worst movie that we've talked about on this channel. At least Morbius and the Suicide Squad had feasible CGI, like CGI where you can look at it and just not fucking laugh. At least in Suicide Squad, some of the actors like Will Smith and Margot Robbie at least tried. At least Morbius said it's Morbin time and morbed all over the bad guys. Because of that, I'm gonna have to put this one at the bottom of the list. It's not quite in the Skull tier, and don't worry, we're gonna get to some movies that will be in that tier soon, but this goes in the bottom of unwatchable. Thank you guys so much for watching. I got a really crazy movie to talk about in the next video, and it's probably gonna take me a long time to make, so just like be patient, I guess. Watch Morbius a couple more times while you wait, and I'll see you guys real soon.